Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the DJ Sessions Presents the Virtual Sessions, brought to you by the DJ Sessions. Us. We're here in the Virtual Sessions room, and coming in from Washington, D.C., we have Micke on the show today. Micke, how's it going?
It's going very well, and I'm so very happy to be here. And yes, I love the intro, all the things, everything was blown by. It looks fantastic.
Thank you very much. That's our little bumper, giving a shout out to some of our sponsors of the show, Mackie being one of them. We love our sponsors and the affiliates that we work with. But you, my good sir, you Perfecto Black, Pro B Tech, Dissident, 221C Progressive House. I mean, you're a busy guy.
I try to keep busy, yeah. But as you've been in the business for a long time, and as you get older in this, it's like if you're not busy, then you're just sitting in your bedroom playing with the really expensive equipment that you should have done something with. No, honestly, I've been very fortunate to be able to work with some of the people I have the opportunity to work with, but my four mentors that I always refer to as is like there's one inspiration, which is Sasha, but everybody says that. But the mentors that I actually worked with have been Scott Henry, who ran Buzz out of Washington D.C., which was one of the most successful clubs in U.S. history, and Sandra Collins, who most people know as being like one of the top trance DJs back in the day, and she taught me how to be a superstar DJ. And then Alex Whalen, who I'm now partners with at the management company, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then Justin Scott Dixon, aka Voyager, who is diamond in the rough out of Florida. His Friction and Spice became Voyager. He was the first record that Sasha signed to his first label over in the UK. Like, Voyager is the man, and he taught me how to do all this stuff here, and actually helped me build it. In any event, so I've been very fortunate to work with amazing people, and so that's how I would on all these labels and stuff. And yes, they do drive me crazy sometimes. It's true.
And this goes all the way back. Does this go all the way back to 98 when you founded Liquid Lounge or Liquid Lounge Sound System? Or were you in the industry before that? Because it looks like, did you start doing sound and lighting tech originally and then got into DJing, or was it the other way around?
It was kind of so I was a co-founder of Liquid Lounge Sound System, and it originally started off as a bunch of guys that were all they're all audiovisual techs. So basically, they all did pro audio. So that they all pretty much worked as government contractors installing AV equipment into all the government buildings around DC. Then they were all DJs, and they were all about 4 or 5 years older than me, and I had gone to military school. Okay, so military school, all right, that's boarding school, military school, where you can't go anywhere, where most people are all partying, and I'm in school marching around and stuff like this. It's terrible. But I had started going to parties in 96, 97, and then when I graduated in 98, I had been doing off and on working with I'd been in music since I was 4, and so I knew how it all worked. And my friends had been taking me out to Buzz a lot, and I said, I could do this. I had a band. I fired the band, like all this other stuff. And I got in my foot in the door by being a lighting tech. The guy's name was Super Cal, and I used to go up and bother him when he was in the booth, and I would be like, "Hey man, how you doing?" And after a while, he was like, "All right, look." And this is a true story. He told me straight up. He says, I go in there, and this is during the raver time, man. So, I didn't have the blinky light or whatever, but I definitely had the visor and the T-shirt and the pants that you could hide 3 people in. And like, and I was hanging out there all the time. I was like, I want to do this. And he's like, all right, I'll tell you what, next week, if you could come over to the booth and actually look like a respectable human being, we'll talk. I was like, oh damn, man. So I end up going, and I said, okay, what do I got to do? So I got a pair of jeans, I got a T-shirt with a record label on it, and I didn't wear a hat. I like tried to do the hair thing or whatever. And then I went in there, and I did have the sunglasses on my head because I don't like my retinas burning out at 6 a.m. And I went up to him, and he was like, no kidding, I didn't even recognize you. And then he brought me in, and he started teaching me how to do it. And so I got my first AV job working at Nation, which is where Buzz was thrown. And I I was very fortunate that Super Hall gave me that chance, because it also caught Scott Henry's eye when he found out that I was actually had musical talent. And the guy I co-founded Liquid Lounge with, Eric Johnson, aka EJ, he was, we worked together as partners and doing B2Bs and things like that. And Scott gave us an opportunity, and from that point forward, I think I did audio visual, like, or pro audio, for about 6 months, and then after that, it was into management, and then actually, playing live. And I played 11 months after at the main room at Buzz, which was like it was a 2,300, 2,500 person floor. 11 months after I learned how to play, and I was terrified. Like, after, only 11 months of experience going in and playing in front of that many people back then, playing records, by the way, records. But we killed it. And for that point forward, I was hooked. And I said, this is what I want to do. And I've done a whole bunch of other stuff like school and things like that, but I've always come back to music. Music is my passion. Yeah.
Shout out to JT McCoy, who's in the chat room right now, saying, "You look respectable."
Yeah, I know who JT is. JT, I'll tell you what, I'm going to kill you in Call of Duty later. It's all good. All right, so we can keep going.
So what do you consider the biggest break that launched your DJ career? Was that 11 months in and boom, you're on the decks playing, or was there some other momentous happenstance that said, boom,
So
that's the one that killed it? Like in the movie Groove, when he just gets it right in the groove and comes over.
He did it for the nod. Let me tell you about Groove real quick. You can't have a 35 person map $20 and have John Digweed headline. I'm sorry, broke. you can't do it. No, my break really came, like, when you first have that opportunity and you think, yeah, this is it, I made it, whatever. But then you realize that, okay, you've just got your foot in the door. There is so much more stuff that you have to do. Like, okay, they let you in, but they haven't let you in the sandbox. You're just on the outside of it, and you got to earn your way in. But I would tell you the big break is after I'd done a little, some time working with Sandra. I had a residency at Buzz, and whenever Sandra came to town, I would open for her. And, Scott helped me out a lot with that. But I remember very vividly, actually, it was Scott Henry's CD release party. It was his second CD release. It was on Ultra Records. And it was called The Politics of Sound, I think it was, or whatever. And so everybody and their brother in the industry was going to be there because he was in one of the hottest collectives, AM Only at the time, which was, a huge roster. And so press was there, and Donald Glaude was supposed to open for him. Well, I love Donald to death, but people put your hands up. But unfortunately,
That's the edited version.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But unfortunately, sometimes Donald, people forgot when my flight was, and like doesn't actually make it. And I love the guy to death, like, seriously. But like it was always an issue coming from Seattle too, which is where I understand you're from. And I he couldn't make it. He called like 2 or 3 hours before the performance, and this is when I was working at Yoshitoshi Records. And Scott calls me up and he's like, so listen, I got this big night tonight CD release party, and Donald canceled. Can you open? And I said yes. And then as soon as I hung up the phone, my bowels vacated. I'm like, fuck, and so, and Alex, who was my boss, who's my partner now in the roster, he let me go home, go get my records pulled all together. I'm terrified, trying to figure it all out. And I go out, and Scott was going to play a 4-hour set, and I was opening for him. And this was also like a big break for me, but it was also one of the biggest faux pas I've ever done, where when you're the opening DJ, it's your job to open for the headline DJ. Okay, well, most of the time I do that. Like 95% of the time, if I'm the opening act or whatever, I would do it right. And like, if I'm the main act, then I'm going to do what I want to do. On this particular night, I was a little, what's the word I want to use? I was excited. We'll go with the word excited. And I went out and I crushed it. Like, I killed it hard to the point where, like, Scott stopped the record and he had to put the lights on me, did a full standing out, whole 9 yards, and I was killing it. But the problem is that Scott and I played a lot of the same music, and he whispered to me after the State of Go, he goes, thanks a lot, man. Now what the fuck am I going to play for 4 hours? And I'm like, oh shit. But I got 3 gigs out of that one where people actually came in the booth, including Lonnie Fisher from Ultra World, would do these huge army parties in DC where like 10,000 people show up. And I got that gig based off of that performance alone, he came in and booked me right then and there. And he said the best way to get a booking in front of 10,000 people is for us to see you play and you make us shake our ass. And I was like, well, goddamn, I can't get a better, better rating than that. So, woo, but that was my break, I'm pretty sure.
Speaking of shaking the ass, Donald Glaude was the first DJ I ever saw play in a nightclub, in an underground nightclub here in Seattle, back in '92 when I first went clubbing. And he's like my hometown hero. Love the guy. Had him on the show a few times. Just
Do you remember when he did that live CD? He did a live CD. He's on the cover of it like this, and it was
yes.
That was recorded at Buzz.
Okay.
He did that at the club that I used to be the main floor manager of, and that's where so it was Donald Glaude. It was like DJ Mixed, I think it was what it was. DJ Mixed live for Washington D.C. and we did it in our club. Yeah, so it was he was great. Yeah, like he still is great. I mean, I don't know what he's doing nowadays, but I mean, a lot of that generation, either they're still doing it, or they've just kind of been they're like, COVID kind of told a lot of people, I'm in my 50s, F it.
Yeah.
So it's like, but, he was one of the good ones, man. He could definitely, like him and Charles, feel good. Like Charles, dude, you guys stole him, the West Coast. Like he was ours and you took him. And I'm pissed about that. No, Charles used to be one of the partners at Fever in Baltimore, which was one of the other things that we did with the promotion team. And, we used to call him Mr. Goodbar, man. That dude, he would just play sets of MJ remixes, like Michael Jackson remixes, all night long. And it would be really good because it would just be all different stuff, house music. That those two dudes know what they're doing for sure. But yeah, Donald's awesome.
And speaking of records, is the first record you ever bought worth mentioning, or is it embarrassing?
No, it's not embarrassing, actually, and it still remains to be one of my top 3 records of all time, and that would be Orbital Halcyon. My second one was Phases of an Out-of-Body Experience.
Okay.
My third one was the white label that Sasha gave me of Expander. So, nice. I mean, you really can't beat those 3 records, and but I will tell you this, that my 10th record, my 10th to 20th record, those 10 in there are just bad, dude. You remember do you remember Chicane Saltwater?
Not dude, Saltwater.
But if anybody out there who's old and remembers Chicane Saltwater, go look it up. Okay, it is about as raver grab star thing as you can ever dig it out. It is, but you know what? I mean, it's really hard to top Halcyon, Phases, I mean, you top some of the best records of all time. So,
and you produce as well now, obviously. I can see your production setup behind you there. When when did you start seeing yourself transitioning into production after being a DJ? Was that pretty early on, or did it take a little bit of time to get into that realm?
So, my parents are probably the real reason why I'm in music, even though they hate the fact it's one of those catch-22s. Teach your kids the arts, but don't be pissed when they follow it. My father is an extremely talented. He's a businessman, but he's an extremely talented actor and singer. My mom was an extremely talented actress, and she's a divorce lawyer now. The arts and was a very important thing that they instilled into me and my sister. And so age 4, I had the stereotypical piano teacher with the ruler thing, whack, mind the digit kind of thing, which I didn't like very much, so that didn't really last very long. But I'd been in music, my entire life pretty much. I was always exposed to it. I mean, play multiple instruments and stuff like that. And so I knew music theory. I had a band when I was playing guitar when I was 14, 15. The best thing that we did was my band was named Cheap Porn Star, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. And it was we opened for Queen's Right at the DC 101 Chili. Yes, at the DC 101 Chili Cook-Off in 1997, I think it was. And no, it was 1998. And then it was right before I transitioned into electronic music. And it was really funny because the band was really pissed because after we did that gig, I completely fired all of them, disbanded it, and went into electronic music, sold my guitars, and everybody's like, what the hell is he doing? But with production, I'd always wanted to do it, but what's really funny is that when you first get into DJing, and you have to admit this, you don't really know what the hell it is we're doing until you actually see what it is you're doing, because you got this thing worked up. Yeah, man, they're up there doing making beats and shit. We're playing records, we're beat matching them or whatever. But there's a thought process in your head that it's a different thing entirely. So once I figured that out, and once I was like, okay, I always wanted to do it because I thought the best way to make your mark as an artist in this industry was not only being able to play it, but also being able to make it. But for DJing, it took me, I wasn't comfortable with my sound. It took me, maybe for 3 or 4 years until I was actually on tour with Sandra stuff where I was really comfortable with records. But when we transitioned into digital, I had to there was that period of time between like 2005 and 2007 or 8 or 9 where the music was terrible. Like Sasha was running around with the Ableton board and, doing things on the fly. And it's like, stop it, everybody's trying to find how they were going to take the progressive sound that really killed at the Millennium Switch, and how they were going to transition it into what it's really become today. Because I hate to break it to people, but we used to play between 135 and 140, and now I'm surprised if I go above 127. And so it's like that transition had to happen. But I knew I always wanted to get in. I think it was a bad breakup one day, and I was just like, I'm gonna do this, man. And then I just started, I opened up music software, and I just started doing it. And it probably would have been more difficult if I didn't have the background in theory and stuff like that. But because I had that, I was able to get started and at least understand what it was I was looking at. But people don't recognize, like, if you don't use sample packs, which I'm okay with people using samples for percussion stuff like that. But when your actual music part, if it's not like a vocal from like a really cool 80s movie or something like that, you and I gotta have, we're gonna have words kind of thing. It takes a while to really understand. There's a learning curve to the tech part of it. Like, you could be the best musician in the world and still not understand how to do this stuff, because there's a learning curve to the software. So it took me a couple of years to really get comfortable with that. But I would say it was like 2012 when I really sunk my started buying equipment, getting into it. I released my first record in like 2013, and then didn't do anything for 6 years. And I got a break with Brent Lawson, Pro Beat Tech, started signing my stuff, and I have not had a record turned down for signing since 2017, which is actually, I feel humbled by that. I was always convinced that if I put I've got people who've signed me for records that I haven't written yet, and that blows my mind. I'm just like, come on, really, seriously? All right. But so I'd also believe that being a producer is necessary, period, these days, because the way that we make our money, I know a guy, and I'm not gonna say his name, but he made $140,000 plus a $50,000 signing bonus for one record in 2000 on a Bedrock. That's all I'll say. And so almost 200 grand for one record. Okay. My royalties nowadays, and I've released at least 5 top 5 records. I'm pretty sure that off of those top 5 records, I might be able to take you to McDonald's. That's the only way we make money nowadays is if we gig. And so, and if you want to build that rapport, that reputation as being, people assume that you have some sort of talent as a DJ or electronic artist, period, if you produce good music. Now, that's not always the case, but it gives you the opportunity because they hear your records, so that the original work. I can think of a lot of producers, well, definitely a handful of them, that are amazing producers that don't understand what a mixing, they just wait, how do you put them together? I was like, dude, you just push for your sake, push the sync button, dude, because you're killing us right now. But I'm not going to say his name. But anyways, yeah. So it's the only way to. It's really the only way to spread. Your to really get into the limelight and actually be taken seriously nowadays. And
Absolutely.
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I wanted to. You're absolutely correct. Is it's kind of synonymous now. I'm telling our own resident DJs that you should start looking into production, because if your socials aren't there, and how are you going to get booked if you aren't socially active and promoting yourself online? How are you going to get booked if you're not producing? The credibility of just being a DJ nowadays only goes so far, and that's pretty much probably a 20-mile radius around your hometown.
It also really depends on where you came up. If
That's
coming up in Washington D.C. in the late '90s, early 2000s
yeah,
was like the mecca. Like we were killing it. And nowadays, yeah, okay, Echo Stage is there and woo, but like it's not the same thing. And I'm not gonna. I love my hometown, and I always will, and I'm always appreciative of the people that supported me. But I don't play in DC very often. There's a reason for that. But I will say that that as far as the social thing is concerned, you're absolutely right. And if you don't do it, you need to find somebody who can. Darla, I know you're in here.
she's in there.
Yeah. I have, there's when, if we want to really get into it, like Facebook, it wasn't just Facebook all of a sudden, and it's Instagram, and then you got SoundCloud, and you got to do the mix. God, just oh god, it's so many of them, and you have to do all of them. And if you don't do all of them, then you're gonna miss somebody somewhere. So you either do it yourself or you get yourself a Darla.
It's so funny. I was on a thread the other day on Facebook, and Dave Dresden had chimed in and was talking about, how the social media isn't like it was in the old days. There was a golden age of social media when
Yeah.
you could build a following. You could, like, even when you had groups, you'd build your fan page on Facebook and you'd amass fans. You'd put something on that fan page, and then all of a sudden they started saying, "We're going to charge you to reach those fans." It's like,
Well, what's
wait
even worse is,
here.
do you remember the event pages that they used to have? Like how easy it was that you could send an event out to people. People could say whether they're going or not,
Yes.
and then it would post it up and all that stuff. That was really helpful and really useful. But
Yeah.
now they bury it, and then
Yeah.
everybody uses it for all the wrong reasons. So it's like it's not even something you can do anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, social media. I know one of the three guys that built Friendster, and Sean Parker, who was the CEO of Facebook. He was a good friend of mine. He went to freaking Oakton High School, which is right around the corner where I grew up. And always, I'm gonna not go too deep into that. I could get in trouble for it. But Sean is a funny dude, and the fact that he ended up in Facebook cracks me up because he had done Napster, and that went so well. Thanks, Sean. And then, so he figured like, well, I screwed him with Napster. Let's see how much more I could do it, because Facebook took like Friendster and MySpace and created a platform that was at first amazing, and then it turned into, oh my god, I have to get this away from me as soon as possible, or I'm going to kill everybody I know. So it's like, that and the fact that, like, for some reason, people that you work with overseas, and goes out to Brent and James, you guys know who you are. Did you know that people in other countries don't know how to tell time? They don't know how to tell time here, because I have to get up at 4 a.m. every goddamn day, because that's when I get phone calls from the UK, because they're like, "Oh, mate, what are you doing?" I was sleeping until you called me. It's like, so, I yeah, so social media, yeah, it's ups and downs. Yeah, I can talk to people in Melbourne, and I've got a radio show all over the place and stuff like that. But then I have to talk to the people in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So, like, no, it's connected us in ways that was unimaginable. But I think that COVID kind of created a reset a little bit, which is as a silver lining. I think that kind of weeded out a lot of those that weren't diehards, because either they could afford it, or they just didn't have the love of the game, kind of thing. And yeah, Latitude, that's right. I'm talking about, but I think that what'll happen now is that we'll start to see that, like, Meta, I guess is what we're supposed to call it now, or whatever. They're going to be revamping. I know some of the people that work over there, and they're trying to come up with new concepts. I know that the software, there are platforms like Gigwell and things like that are streamlined to help that process. So we'll just have to see. I mean, there'll be something new. There always is, and hopefully it be a little bit more regulated with some thought process in it, instead of just throwing endless amounts of like stimuli at us and then thinking we're going to explode this beautiful cloud of excess at the age of 25.
I totally understand what you mean there. I live on one of the worst downtown street corners in downtown Seattle, and so all the police, fire, and ambulances drive right by my place, and I'm like 6 stories up. And
It just means that you're in the right district, man, because those places are usually where they put the clubs at, man. Because seriously, if you think that I've ever played at a club that was, you walk outside and there's a beautiful high rise or like $3 billion homes, you out of your mind. It's
no,
always in the crappiest, dankest, ridiculous, like, oh my God, I'm going to die part of town. And then, oh, no, wait, there's one light lighting up a parking lot for 2,000 people. Like,
yeah.
so yeah, stuff like that.
Speaking about social media and getting out there, though, what measures do you take to actively promote yourself, your releases, and your career? Is solid PR an important asset for DJs and producers to have?
Yes, in a word, because so I've been lucky and fortunate enough to have an occasional working relationship with Sasha, Mr. Alexander Co. And one of the things that it happened because when I worked at Yoshitoshi Records with Alex we were there for, I guess, 3 years or something like that, working for Fish, and said something to me that was crazy, and about the transition that happened through, like, say 2000 to 2010. He told me that, like, during, like, every week he would get promos, and back in the late 90s or whatever, he would get something like 100, 110 promos. Of the 110 promos, like 30 of them would be decent, like records that you could play, maybe not all the time, but they're records you could play for different things. And then of those 30, like 5 of them would be hot, like dope records that you're like, woo, like the barn burner kind of thing, tearing it up. He said, 10 years forward, now I get somewhere between 600 to like 800 a week. And of that 800, maybe 5% are decent. And of that 5%, I might get 2 records that I'll keep in my playlist or whatever for longer than like 2 weeks. He's like, there's so much garbage out there because people automatically assumed that if they could get the software to create the music or whatever like that, because it became easily accessible, that they didn't have to have talent in order to, and unfortunately, you could use the music. You could be a computer programmer all day long, but if you don't have talent or an understanding of music, you're just flooding the space with your garbage. And please stop. No, but like, it became like saturated. Now you're seeing like that come back a little bit, where the people, like I said before, the love of the game, that have stuck with it. And like I would say towards the last 6 months of like COVID, if we say that COVID was 2 years long, so last like 6 months. I'm not even going there. Anyways, it's like so like the last 6 months. All right, let's say the last 6 months of 2021. You started to see like more of the records that like were coming out of Beatport and stuff being better quality. Like there was a better selection process, and I think that also lended to the fact that a lot of labels that I'm on, like there's a certain label that begins with Last, and I'm just going to leave it there, that pushed me back, that I had signed with. And hey, thanks, Green Daver. That I'd signed with, that had to push me back because they were releasing 8 a month, and then they dropped to 2 a month, and they were not releasing their good stuff. So that pushed, if you think about that, pushed anything I was doing back by like 2 years. And so it's like, all right. And a lot of people withheld a lot of their good stuff because they didn't want to put it out because it wasn't going to be in a dance floor. I mean, you go back to Pandemic, you'll find a lot of hot records that nobody's ever heard that got put out. Yeah. But nobody's good, and that'll be really interesting to farm backwards a little bit to see what comes out of it. But if you don't promote properly, you're not you have to do it through production. You got to do, I mean, and I don't have all the answers. I like to think I do, but I got myself a Darla. Um, no, I got myself into a position where I recognize that it gets to a point where you need support network to do it properly, and because you'll screw up somewhere. Like I've pissed people off before because like, and just I say something backwards and all of a sudden now I'm getting blasted. There's 1,000 comments and I'm like, I got in trouble one time because there's a certain female DJ. I mean, I love female DJs, but I'm not going to say who she is, but she knows who she is. She's in the top 5 all highest paid, not top 5 highest talent, but she was DJing in a video. And by the way, I love women DJs. I'm a big supporter. Sandra will tell you, but this particular DJ, they had a top-down video of her playing. Okay, and I couldn't keep my mouth shut because it's a 3-minute clip. And in this 3-minute clip, I'm looking at this, and my AV is screaming at me because the CDJs she's supposedly playing on aren't even hooked up. Like the cables are laying on behind it. Like she's pretending to mix on channels that don't have an EV. Like there's one EV and it's on channel 4, which is you follow like I got deep. I did like screenshots of it. I ran over the cables and I got mad trouble for that. And like because it slipped out to public and I had to make it private. I was like, whoopsie, like so. I regulate. I pulled back really hard on what I did social media wise because I recognized that you could just get yourself in a lot of trouble. And then I said, okay, I need a plan. And so I've got people that I work with that work with me now that are part of the roster that I run. That their primary focus is development for like how to promote and stuff. And we're still trying to figure it out, man. I mean, there's no like there's no right answer. It's like you got to catch somebody's attention or catch the people's attention at the right time with your music, and it's just hit or miss. I mean, as long as you stay true to like what you feel is like your genre and you evolve, I guess. But like you stay true. Like I'm a progressive DJ. I white knuckled that like crazy. Everybody said progressive's dead, man. I was like, look, if you're a good DJ, you're a progressive DJ. Period. I don't care what you play because if you don't progress through the night, you're putting everybody to sleep. You have to go somewhere. So that's a progression, right? So you're it's like, yeah, that's what it is. And I knew progressive would come back. I also did drum and bass would come back because dubstop is well, dubstop. Yeah, we'll just stop. So and then so like I knew drum and bass would come back because that was what was there first.
Mhm.
But there's a huge amount of like you'll I'll play records from the late 90s and kids think they're brand new. And that is what the OG, which Kyoki calls us, that's what the OG people can do, is that I could play a record from 97 in the middle of my set from 2022 and you will think that the record's brand new, and we bring that to the table. And I think experience is a big part of, I used to be terrified to get up on decks. Now I can't wait. And like, I know exactly what I'm doing. If I make a mistake, I make a joke out of it because I know that it was a mistake, not because of my talent, but it was just because shit happens. It used to be like, oh my God, you're going to think I'm crazy. And like, I would freak out. But yeah,
And,
man, yep.
and speaking of releases, you got something dropping tomorrow on November 11th. The Under Wide Horizons release with Noel Sanger, Alex Whalen, and Focus, right?
Well, so it's Noel's record.
Noel's
And,
record.
yeah, so Dissident is actually one of the partners in the roster. He's actually on our roster as well. And I wanted to. I've been doing a lot of remixes recently, and I wanted to get Alex back into doing music. So Alex Whalen is. We can talk about him for a second. He's so I'm managing director of Pro Beat Tech Management North America, which is our roster, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. But Alex was my mentor, as I said before. You're about 10 years older than me, right, Alex? No, I think he's like 7 or 8 years older than me, and he brought to the table an understanding of music that I missed because I was just was just too young, and he had to take time off because he wanted to go back to school because he's one of those super smart people that has to go get doctorates and things. And I'm sure he'll be pissed if I told that. But he, he went back and he did all that, and he went through the system, and was successful in, like, tutoring, some tutoring business or something like that. But then he got tired of it, and it was like, I miss music, and he wanted to come back. And I was like, well, I'm always going to look out for the people that got me here. And so I was like, well, dude, you're amazing DJ. I was like, can you still produce? He's like, yeah, I can still produce. So I forced him to do this with me. And so the record coming out is the first thing that Alex has done in, like, I think, like, I want to say like 8 years or something like that. So I got him to, we did it over the internet though, but so that's actually a big deal. Beyond that, on Pro Beat Tech, I've also got Camilo San Clemente, Believe, did a remix with Brent Lawson, who's a partner of mine in Pro Beat Tech music. And by the way, it took me a long time to get that right. Camilo San Clemente, right? So it's a mouthful. But that's coming out soon. And I also did a tribute remix of an iconic 80s record. For I had a friend who passed away. One of my best friends passed away in August this past year, and so I did a tribute remix that I'm going to release as a free track pretty soon. And it's a remix of "Don't You Forget About Me." Everybody who's playing it right now, there's a very limited group of people, but it's been rocking dance floors, blowing it up. So it's something to look forward to. And then there's a whole bunch,
lines, right?
a whole bunch of good stuff coming. But yeah, so
now, how many
just keep
labels,
me busy, man.
how many labels do you work with, and what labels are those?
All right, so let's see if I get this right. All right, so I would say the most known label that's also has the best promotion machine that I've ever seen, and is Paul Oakenfold's Perfecto, and I am on Perfecto and Perfecto Black, which is kind of a surreal thing for me because I always saw Perfecto as being that big club trance thing, and when Perfecto Black hit, it was like, okay, that's cool. I could get on board with that. And so those two are probably the bigger ones. I can't say that the other ones that I'm working with right now, but there are two very big ones that I've got coming. But I'll be announcing that as soon as I finish the project. So I would count. There's two big ones. We'll count them as two. So that's 1, 2, 3. Strip recording, Strip Digital, Pro Beat Tech Music, B Tech Noir, Natura, Dissident, and then there's a little label down in Richmond, Energy Music. Yeah, I did something for them too. I just like, I mean, if you hit me up and you got something that inspires me, and like, or you want me to do a remix or whatever, I'm down to do stuff, because I get I've gotten a lot of requests for stuff recently. I also engineer, which for artists that ask me to, and it's part of, got to pay the bill somehow, right?
Yeah.
Which is very cool. And I also have a down tempo album that's coming out in EMG, which is just completely different stuff that I normally do, which is all like down tempo, like trip hop and stuff. I wanted to keep it eclectic, because if you don't, you'll start to sound the same. So I'd say about 15 labels.
What label was Stung released on?
Dissident. Yes, that's Noel's label.
Awesome.
Yeah. Stung
what
is
about,
actually good.
What
Actually,
about,
by the way, Stung is a tribute to Buzz, by the way, and I wanted to say that the reason it's called that is because the B thing was Scott Henry and the whole crew and everybody that we worked with. Like, I wanted to do a tribute album, and so we put that out on the anniversary of when we closed doors, which was July 15th this past year.
And what about 21C Progressive House?
So,
what's that all about?
Well, before we get into 21C, the big thing about it is that what we figured out me, Alex, and a couple other people is that if you want to get far in the backbone of the business, not just as a musician, you need three things. You need label support from prominent, decent labels. You need to have an artist roster that you either control, manage, or that has decent people on it, and you need a radio platform. And 21C Progressive House started off as a group on Facebook, Meta, whatever. That this gentleman from Melbourne, Australia, his name is James Theos, and he built it from just a group of people that like progressive house music, and built it up, and then started to get into doing radio shows, and hit me up one day and asked me if I would be his engineer. And then we partnered up in it, and then I dragged him into working with Pro B Tech, and then I dragged Nolan with Dissident, and put all these people together. And like COVID, you had nothing better to do than create a network of crazy people. So that's what we did. And so 21C Progressive House is basically a radio platform for killer progressive DJs that are on the up or are established. And that's where my show Latitude is on.
And tell us about Latitude. What can one expect? I've never heard it before. Give me the run through on what Latitude's all about. If I've never heard about it before, what do I expect to hear on Latitude?
So people were yelling at me for a while to say, you have to do a radio show. You have to do a radio show. You got to do a podcast. It's like, all right, I'm good with that, but I don't want to just do a podcast because everybody does podcasts. There's a podcast, there's a podcast here, podcast there. And I decided that, if I wanted to do a specific format that would be interesting and different. And I also wanted to show all the wussies that can't play for longer than 30 minutes on a, like, seriously, man, how could you be a DJ and not play for longer than an hour? Dude, I've played for 8 hours, 12 hours straight, and like, just woo! Kids be bitching, man, you're going to make me play longer than 90 minutes? Are you serious? Like, I hate that crap. Anyways, so my show can be anywhere between like 3.5, 4.5 hours, and it's split up into different sections for terrestrial radio. But we put it all up on SoundCloud as one whole show. But the way it works is, I basically tell you hello, and then I tell you who I got coming on, and then I do a mix, and it can be anywhere from like whatever you like, but I keep it, relatively close to like, a CD or whatever. And then I do an interview, but my interview is not really an interview. The way I market it is that think of it as you walked into the green room or the VIP room and you saw two DJs that you liked, and you got to put a microphone on the wall and just listen to what they're talking about. That's what my show is. And so essentially, like, I have an outline and I try to keep us on the straight and narrow between the mustard and the mayonnaise, but it never works. Like, I mean, we just talk about crazy stuff. And then they do a mix. And and I've been fortunate enough that everybody's really brought their A game and given me awesome mixes. So you can expect about a 4.5 hour show with, a discussion with some really dope artists everywhere from Kyoki to Noel to Scott Dixon did it, Nigel Dawson, a lot of up and comers. I've got, people come off my label. Alex has done it. I've got some big OGs coming that are going to be doing it next year, since I've gotten some, some notoriety from it. It's a really awesome show that showcases people saying, hey, you know what, like, we know how to do it. We do it up, and we can continue to do it. We want to take you on a journey. We don't want to just go, bleh! And then so actually, like, it's music. Good.
one of those shifting here for just a little bit, big buzzword from last year, or I should say big buzz letters from last year, and I want to get your thoughts on this.
Sure.
NFTs.
Yeah. So yeah. Sandra's gonna get on me for this one. Sandra and I have a record that we only give to VIP people, and the track is it's known that we have it, but good luck finding it. It's called 13 because it was our 13th project together. But it was written for I wrote it with Sandra, with Sasha in mind, at playing at Space at Sunrise in Ibiza. Like, that's that record, and it came together perfectly. And so we give it to some people, like we give it to Lee Burge at All Day I Dream, and I think Alex has got it, but like Sasha's got it. I think John's got it. I think it's too pretty for John, but she wanted to do. She's like, we could maybe, I was like, we should put this out. I think we've held it long enough. It's been like 2.5 years. And she said, well, what about NFTs? And I was like, huh? I was like, so you're telling me that somebody's going to give me like thousands of dollars for a serialized version of our music after it's been made into, you said a token. So wait, so you're telling, so I'm going to Bitcoin my music? I don't understand. Like, I'm still think I can copy it. I'm pretty sure. I think this is bullshit. Yeah, this is bullshit. And that's that's what I think about that.
It's funny that Twitter actually went and took it one step. And if you uploaded an NFT as your profile picture, as a picture, it would register and say, this is an actual, like, you own this. It was kind of interesting. You've seen a lot of it in the artwork realm, and there are some NFT labels that have started. But
there are DJs that have made $100,000 off of one track, and it's, I know that there's potential there, but the people that have actually been able to pull in that kind of cash, or that for their art, are people that are well established, that there's a base that are seeking things like that of that kind of unique value. I know that Wu-Tang Clan, remember they did that album, and then that really rich guy bought it, and he turned out to be that idea it's brilliant, but at the same time, it's like I don't know. Like, I still have problems with crypto. Like, I made money on crypto, everybody has, but like, look at where it is today. What happened with FTX, Coinbase? Like, seriously, Coinbase is still alive? You're kidding, right? Like, and we watched, Bitcoin crash like crazy. Well, it's all on the same. It's a blockchain, so it's like, I would want there to be a little bit more opportunity to, because the way it works with music, you still have to dollars to have it done a certain way, and it's got to be, it's so, I don't know, man. I'd rather just sell the record out to people, so that I want to spread the records versus like being like, and this is my elitist piece of music that I mean just for you if you give me $100,000. No, you can't have it. Fuck. So I mean, I'm more about I want people to hear my music. I didn't make it for just some rich guy who wants to sit by his pool in Miami and listen to me over and over again, because that's a little weird, isn't it? All right.
Speaking of a weird or different experiences, what is your take on virtual reality? And have you done anything in virtual reality, or looking to do anything in virtual reality?
So virtual reality is really cool. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, and I've tried out, different versions of it. Like, I know I'm actually like, I want to, so I'm my PlayStation 5, like, I'm surprised I haven't broken it yet, because I'm working it out. I was one of the few people who was lucky enough to get one before Christmas last year. I'm like, yeah. But they're coming out with the PSVR, the PS2, VR2 or whatever, and it's supposed to be where they're going to be able to follow your eye and stuff like that. There's the new kind of technology. I think that it's on the cusp of actually being very good, because it's been good for a while, but because it was, but you get that everything's heavy and stuff, but like, you would still kind of feel immersed in it. I think it's only going to get better. I think that, Elon trying to stick fiber optics into our brains, I think eventually, we're going to be like, seriously, wouldn't it be awesome if you could be like, I know Kung Fu? Like, seriously, like Neo, like, I think that would be like that. And I know Kung Fu. Like,
I don't know how many people are going to get that reference, but
if you didn't want, seriously, if you don't know who Neo is in the Matrix, then you all are just get out. So, but anyways, like, I think that it's really getting better. I think it's, people thought it was gonna be a fad, like 3D glasses and the 3D experience. That was kind of like a precursor to see if people will actually put things on their faces in order to entertain themselves. And the big thing about the PS5 VR that's coming out is they're taking all the 50 cables, whatever, and they're taking it down to one, which is a big deal. So in there, but it's at the same time, it's better technology. So, a couple more years, I don't think the question won't be about whether or not we like VR. The question will be like, so what's your VR situation? Do you have the vest? I mean, can you really feel everything? Like, it's going to be like Ready Player One. So I mean, I can see it's going more internally with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're definitely getting a foothold in that market right now, where we have soft launched 2 nightclubs in alt space, and we're getting ready to grand open them. And you know, we've been stuck in such a 2D world. Like right now, we're still interfacing in the 2D environment, but we want to take it to where we could do this interview in virtual reality. You're sitting there, we're sitting there, and we have a live virtual audience being able to ask questions, and they're, in that room or in that realm with us, and we can do release parties. We can do live streams.
You've heard of Second Life, right?
Oh, I was big into Second Life.
Right. So, okay. So Sandra, who was a music collaborator, yes, Sandra Collins, or whatever, she kind of went and started doing that when she basically announced that she was going to take time off the road. And it just so happens that when she announced it was January 1st of 2020, like she called the time that like, I'm going to take some time off. And then the pandemic happened. It was like, well, good choice, I guess. I don't know. But so she went really deep into that. And she actually, we hadn't talked for a couple months, and she hit me up and she's like, you have to come to my event. I'm like, okay, you're playing out? And she said, yeah, totally am. And here's the link. And I'm like, what? And so I went to the link, and she was live streaming into Second Life in a club with fake CDJs that look like CDJs, but she's playing it. I'm like, and there's a person up there that kind of looks like her, but like ways like, I I was just really surprised, and I didn't. And then you started to hearing about how people were live streaming into what's the name of that game that they play that the kids play where they build things or whatever? And
hang on,
Darla, what is it?
Oh, come on! I know
Alex. Alex is my boy.
Alex will know. It's Rick. It begins with an Minecraft.
Minecraft, that's it. Yeah. So people are like, Alex, you played in Minecraft, right? No. People have been like they live streaming into that. There it is. Thank you. That's become a thing. Like they've tried to find a way to kind of reach a new audience, and it's really interesting. So you're on the right track. I mean,
I was just going over this with my business partner yesterday, explaining to him how the metaverse is huge, and talking to him about the Marshmallow show that happened in Fortnite. And it had 10.7 million people in attendance.
Damn, man.
And Travis Scott did it. He broke Marshmallows by having, I think it was 12.5 or 12.7 million people in Fortnite. And that's just the video game. And most of those things.
Darla, book it. Give a 30% discount if it's VR. If I don't have to go anywhere, then that's cool. You could do that. Book about like that.
I'll make you the first book DJ in our VR nightclubs. I'd love it.
Man, I'm down. Just make sure that that the person that's made for me or whatever, just make sure you get rid of the COVID-15, because I'm still trying to lose that before I go on the road again. Jesus Christ. I have a girlfriend that's basically whipping my butt right now to she gets on me about it. She's like, you want to look good for them, right? I was like, what the fuck does that mean? She's like, and then my partner's like, you taking that double chin with you on tour? No, I'm not taking it with me. I was like, so if we don't have to do that, that'd be great.
I must be lucky, because my girlfriend, she's a Pilates instructor and personal trainer, and loves to go outdoors and exercise. She's gonna start doing virtual. We're setting up her own business, her own website to break her out into things. If you want somebody, shameless plug, we can do some virtual sessions for you if you want.
Yeah, Darla, sign her. We need her. We'll call her a Band-Aid.
She'll be the Proby Tech personal trainer.
Right, Proby Tech personal trainer. There you go. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's no. I think you're on the right track, though. I think that and if I'll be totally down. I'm always down to do different mediums or whatever. I if I hate it, I'll tell you. If I don't, I'll promote it.
and just a couple last things before we let you get going
Sure.
here. Tell us about your involvement with the F1 races. I know that's kind of taken North America by storm. They just did them in Texas. They're in Vegas. Did they do them in Miami as well?
So
I know it's blowing up.
This is a thing for me, because I've been an F1 fan for a while, and then F1 really blew up during COVID because of the Netflix thing or whatever. And everybody's like, nobody knew who Lewis Hamilton was, and then the Drive to Survive comes out, and everybody's like, man, F1's awesome. I've been an F1 fan for a while. I've got all these studio monitors back here. Like when there's a race on, I've got like the map here. I've got a cockpit of somebody here. Like, I'm crazy like that. But one of the things I recognized with F1 is that every time, if you listen to between like takes or whatever, like, because I get F1 TV, so there's no commercials, so they don't jump on the networks. So they leave it running, and there's no announcer. And what I always hear in the background, doesn't matter what country they're in, is boom chick, boom chick, boom chick, the boots and pants and boots and pants. And I recognize that electronic music really has is really a foundational for F1 racing. Like that's what's become, like football, like football's like hip hop. I don't care. It doesn't matter what it is. People get hype hip hop before or some sort of rock or whatever. F1, it's electronic music. So I was like, all right. Then I saw when Max last year won the world championship when he beat Lewis, and it was an amazing year, whatever. Martin Garrix, who's really good friends with freaking Max Verstappen. Max goes up with his trophy and he's next to Martin. And Martin's playing to the crowd that he just won in front of it. I'm sitting there going, okay, all right, this is the thing. They announced that we're going to do races. So last year, or it was actually this year, I'm sorry, that they did the Miami race for the first time. And I'm screaming at everybody, we got to do something this year. We have to do something. I'm telling you, this is going to be. And I couldn't get people excited enough about it because everybody likes the NASCAR, like big left turns all day long, right? So, so they didn't think it was going to have the kind of turnout that it was going to be, and it turned out to be huge. Like 450,000 people over the weekend showed up for these things, and it was like they said something like 800 million or something, or almost a billion went back into the community. And so, see, and then like they came out and they said that they're going to do Vegas as well. So Probitech, we're going to be doing something in one of, hopefully two, but at least one of the cities, which would be either be Vegas, which is in October, Austin, which is also in October. I'm sorry, Vegas is in November over Thanksgiving. Austin's in October, and then Miami is May 7th, which is going to be 2 months after Winter Music Conference, which is in March. And if you guys don't know what WMC is, then what did Ricky Bobby say? If you don't chew Big Red, then fuck you. It's kind of similar, you know what I mean?
Oh wow!
Seriously,
Winter Music Conference. Yeah, that's an awesome one. But
well,
you're going to be putting something on for this now, is it? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I definitely I have plans to go to Miami in January. I definitely want to make Winter Music Conference happen, and then obviously South by Southwest and IMS and Ibiza this year or in 2023. But one last thing, if you could give a piece of advice to up and coming producers out there to watch out for when making their career successful, what would that be?
Stay true to what your sound is. Stay true to being learn your craft, master your craft. Like that is the most important thing in the world. If you go up there and a lot of DJs nowadays, like if you learn on vinyl, which is I think is extremely important, and the experience is there. But if you learn on vinyl, I believe that you have the right to use the tools that are available, because there's an argument about the sync buttons and all of the other stuff. Well, if you start using sync buttons from the beginning, if you don't understand what it is that you're actually doing, then you haven't learned or earned that right. Okay. But sometimes when you use the sync button, it helps you do other stuff. Like you can get things going and do crazy stuff. Like I use the tools that are available to me. I don't sweat the tools, but I use the tools that are available to me. And I think that the most important thing is to master your craft, master it, and like take the time, learn your records, know what you're doing before you get involved. Like don't call yourself a DJ because you and your friends like play in a closet or whatever. Your job is to help people lose themselves on a totally encapsulated experience. And that is the most important thing, is that you're there to make them move their asses and forget their bullshit. And like a lot of people forget that. And so it's extremely important that, Scott Henry House had a great rule, and he taught me, and he said, for every 7 records that you play one for yourself. But at the end of the day, like, there's so much more to it than just saying that you're a DJ and you're in front of the crowd or whatever like that, or like you have a VIP, list or whatever the hell it is. And, I'm with the DJ, blah, blah. It's about like people come and see us because they want to get lost. And that's why I'm more about the club medium than I am about festivals which I don't mind festivals, but what we do, if you master your craft, if you come and see me and like I've taken the time to learn what I do, and I've got a club with like a function one system, like, and you give me like 3 hours, I will make sure you don't regret it, because I'm going to mess with you all night. I'm gonna make you dance, and then I'm gonna make you think, and then I'm gonna make you like lose yourself, because that's what our job is. It's like, and otherwise you could just push play on a playlist and then get like a robot go, eh, eh, so like just actually like learn to do what it is we do, and remember where we came from. That's the other thing. A lot of people don't know that.
I'm glad you touched on the club versus festival thing. That was one of my questions I was going to ask. And you kind of I love it when guests do that. They actually it's like you don't have my questions in front of you. This is all blind. And you just went right into it. And I was going to ask intimate clubs or big festivals. And I can totally understand the reason why you would gravitate towards that intimate club or that club setting where you can kind of feel like you're controlling a little bit more. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's the reason I'm more about the club experience is because, it's like I said earlier about the beautiful cloud of excess. Like, I love the fact that electronic music is blown up and stuff. And I remember when Ultra was 2,000 people on the beach in South Beach. Okay. The last one was 150,000 people. The amount of DJs that were on that list for 3 days was like 95 DJs. Well, how the hell does that even work?
Yeah.
And like, I get it. Like, there's a really cool atmosphere to it. It's like, back, when if you were as old as me, like Vans Warped Tour, Lollapalooza, all that stuff, all of that, like, band kind of thing, that where the tours came out, and those festivals they were awesome because you got a lot of different things. And so I get that. But if you really want to know what it is that we do, you go out to a dance floor where you're completely surrounded by lights. You're completely surrounded by people, like the heat of it, the sound of it, like the floor thumps, you're completely surrounded by the music, and it's music without words, lets you hear yourself think. There's truth to that, believe it or not. And like,
Yes.
I know we have a bad, reputation about it because of, drugs and things like that. But every music, every concert, all that stuff has always had that. It's about the fact that like we wouldn't be here if it was just that. Like, there's a lot more to it. And if you really want to understand it, you go out to a club that's got 2,000 people in it, or 500 people, a large amount of people that are all getting down to all around it, and you'll understand then. And then if you don't understand, then stop coming. I don't need you anyway.
Yeah, I'm all about the bigger clubs. After going to the Brooklyn Mirage, I bring this up in almost every interview. I just love the Brooklyn Mirage. Went there, it was blown away. When we were in Amsterdam,
it's amazing.
We went to Escape, and that was just awesome. Melkweg, I kind of maybe said that right. Please, nobody murder me for not saying Melkweg or whatever. I can't do that. But
there was a Manumission, was an amazing club in Ibiza. Like, those were so many clubs, like the big club environment. Like, when they really started to pioneer those, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, and you were just surrounded, like the big raves, like the New Jersey Convention Center. Okay, they used to do this party called Whistle. Now, I'm not saying that all the DJs there were good, but I can definitely tell you that there were so many people there. It created its own weather system. I'm not kidding. And like, it would rain inside. That's how many people are in there. And they would get 14 or 15,000 people would show up, but it was still inside. I think the main room that we had something like, because I was on the AV team for that, we did 65 moving lights. There was something like 100 different speaker setups or whatever like that, and it was all designed around like this, and totally encapsulated, and there was a roof, the whole 9 yards. And it was just, when I played one of them, okay, I played Coachella, and when you get up into the when you get up to the DJ booth, you're playing records, you've already thrown up twice because there's just a sea of people there, and you get up there and you're like, and you look to your right, and there are 4 speakers as big as you pointed at you. You look to the left, there's the same 4 on that side, and you realize, oh crap, you know what? That's not the club's, that's my booth monitors. And it's, all you hear is, I mean, I get the festival experience is cool, but again, it's about, man, we used to break into warehouses, but I didn't. Scott did. But we used to do that, and that was what really like brought it was the idea of being able to be just blown away by sound and light and that experience. And that's what I think is the underlying foundation of what it is that we do. And so I'm a club guy.
Well, Darla's over there saying we need to get you and Alex up here to Seattle to play at Aura nightclub.
Oh, dude. Well, that's one of the things I wanted to tell you. Like I was going to say is that we want to, and we haven't gotten permission yet, but John and Sasha, listen, we love you guys and we are completely ready to take the mantle, because we even have the letter set up, right? Because like Sasha, John Digweed, Micke, Alex Whalen, like it works, dude. It's crazy. We're going to do a B2B tour. We're going to do some special dates, and we definitely want to get West Coast because we both haven't been out there in a while. I mean, he plays LA with something called the Booty Corns, which if you really want to be blown away about what old DJs and producers do nowadays, go look bootycorns.com and be wowed and mystified by the fact that something like that exists. But it actually works. And I'm just gonna bootycorns.com, figure it out. And then Alex, see, I told you I'd tell them, and they're all gonna be confused because they don't know what that means. And I didn't either. And I still don't, but it sounds good. They do live PA and they play in LA, like once a month. But it's like Dave Ralph, Alex Whalen, and two other guys that are amazing, and they just tag team. Yeah, so
Bootycorns.com.
Bootycorns.com, BOOTY corns, as in like, yeah, that. There was nowhere to go with that. I was just like, it's just,
and he had kind of,
and he knew that. Like Alex knew that. I told him, it's like, I'm gonna get you. I can't. It's the corns part, dude. Like seriously, I get the booty part, but I don't. Are you shaking your booty so much you get corns? Like that's not a good look, bro. So, yeah.
Awesome, Micke. Is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know before we let you get going?
Well, I know that Proby Tech. Management North America. We launched in July. We're in phase 1 right now. In phase 2, we're going to be announcing some seriously that's Kyoki's event, but there are going to be people that have rocked your asses before that you know very well that we're actually going to be bringing on. That's part of our phase 2. Phase 3 is going to be what we really want to do, but we have to make sure that we're paying the bills first before we get to that point. And what phase 3 is about finding new talent and basically cultivating people that haven't had the opportunity to get out there or whatever. And it's what I would want to what I'm hoping to see is that the roster gets to the point where not only it's self-sufficient, but that it provides opportunities for about, I don't want to have more than maybe 20 or 25, like, because I know so many people roll too many, and I don't want to do that. I want to have a high tier that carries the middle tier or whatever, but I also want to get people a chance to get their music out. And I know how hard it is, man, and a lot of people have been turned down because they were told their music sucks. And I've been there, and it takes somebody backing your play and saying that I vouch for you. And when you do that, it opens up the entire network. They won't let you in the sandbox unless somebody vouches for you. And I didn't realize that for a long time. So that's going to be out there, and we'll make announcements. Darla's going to do that on Facebook, and so we'll be looking for talent. And don't try to find us; we'll find you.
where's the best place people can go to find out information before you find them?
Okay, so the roster is www.probtech. That's PROB Tech, MGMT.com. If you want to find information out about myself, yours truly, you can find me on the Facebooks /DJ Micke, or you can find me on SoundCloud, which is where you can hear the show Latitude, which is soundcloud.com /DJ MICKEDC. And then I'm in Spotify as well. And you can look me up by MICKE. Look for the Washington, D.C. guy. And you can also bother Darla. Darla loves taking calls from random people to find out stuff, but that's what she does. She's all about it. That's your life, right? And Leia, her Star Wars wife, like, she's amazing too. And when I say Star Wars wife, I mean it. They had a wedding that was Star Wars themed, and it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And her name's Leia, for fuck's sake. I mean, it's just, and these are my two ladies in Indianapolis that help me run the roster. And, I'm managing director of it, but I've got Alex Whalen, who is my associate director, and then Probitech Music out of UK, Brent Lawson, who's the person who created it, and then James Thalos, who runs the 21C Progressive House. So we all were working as a team, and so go out and listen to any labels. I got stuff dropping, and I appreciate the support, and I appreciate you bringing me on. And this is fun.
Absolutely, Micke. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was a pleasure having you. Definitely want to talk with you offline, but all that, a lot more stuff, all that other stuff you have going on.
I guess you have to bother me in like a couple months or something like that, dude, and then we'll figure out where we're at. Yeah. Maybe I'll be on a beach next time, and I'll just be like,
You'd be amazed. I've actually had shows happen from the front seat of cars. I've had shows happen at the beach. I've had shows happen in backyards, at parties, on rooftops. And
you've had a couple of my artists off of my roster, and they all seem to keep trying to come up with weird and newfound ways to find electricity and lead it out to like the cliffs of Dover, like what Casper did. I was like, really, dude? So you're gonna go to Estonia and you're gonna set up a camera and like overlooking this beautiful, like, nobody believes you, man. This is messed up. No, but creativity. Good stuff.
Awesome stuff. All right, Micke, thank you again for coming on the show. We'll be following up with you here soon in the future, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. On that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find us on Meta, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. We're out there, The DJ Sessions. You can also find over 600 news stories a month, exclusive interviews, live interviews like the one you're watching right now, or find us in VR at our VR nightclubs, which will be grand opening soon. Also on Roku, Amazon Fire, TikTok, and Apple TV. Download our mobile app and more at thedjsessions.com. Go there, tell a friend. thedjsessions.com. I'm your host, Darren, coming to you from the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington. That's Micke coming in from Washington, D.C. I guess we're both in Washington's right now. He's in D.C. I'm in the Washington State.
Yeah, you know what? And people who play online video games don't know where either one of them are. It's really terrible, man.
Can't point them out on a map. On that note, this is the DJ Sessions, and remember, on the DJ Sessions, the music never stops.